Welcome back to Absolutely Marvel and DC. My name is Benny. That is Dan in the red shirt, which means he's going to die. And that is Sal.
God.
Not in a red. Do you not know what a red shirt is, Dan?
I do, but then I was like, no, I won't. And then I saw it was Spider-Man. I'm like, there's a good chance I will.
You got to look at me and say, I don't want to go, Mr. Stark.
Aww.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about Loki. Episode 6 and the season as a whole and how it stands and what it did.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume at this point you don't need a recap of Loki episode 6. If you're watching this, you've already seen the episodes, you're already good. So I'm going to go in with the elephant in the room. I'm going to go with the elephant in the room.
Okay.
I adamantly stated that it was not going to be Kang.
Yes, you did.
And I'm not wrong.
You are 100% wrong. He didn't say his name was Kang.
He does not say Kang, and he says that there are multiple variants. Now, using that logic, Sal,
Uh-huh.
Loki and Sylvia are the same one, but she's not going by the name Loki, which means that the man at the end, or the man who remains, is the man who remains. He's not Kang.
It's pretty reaching.
Yeah,
I tell you.
No,
very
no,
reaching.
it's totally fine, and it works. I also said that there would be a Loki fight in the end. Now, I will say I was wrong. I said it would be a Loki behind the curtain. Mm-hmm. I would have laughed if he was like, I'm another variant of you.
Right.
Right. It's like, took you guys long enough.
Exactly. I think we all expected kind of something like that.
But while I was wrong about there being an evil Loki behind the curtain, there was a Loki fight in the end. Because the evil Loki just was Sylvie, apparently.
Yeah. Which, yeah.
Who would have expected the Loki that started off the entire show killing people was the evil Loki all along?
Yeah.
So there was an evil Loki, and Kang was not named. Now, I want to start with this because I actually want to ask your guys' opinion on this. Why didn't they name him?
I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like it was something along the lines of, if it was Kang, he would have introduced himself with his name right at the start.
Yeah.
I'm
But
Kang the
because
Conqueror.
of-
Or
exactly.
right when he said, oh, she still calls me that, I find it amusing. My name is Kang.
I
And when
feel
they
like,
asked him his name, he didn't say it.
Yeah.
No, he did call himself a conqueror. So.
But that's it. Like,
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it was so that he could give the exposition and leave you still slightly wondering.
Right.
Instead of just being like, haha, Kang the Conqueror. But
his
not the
real
Conqueror
name.
one.
I think the reason is because his real name is Nathaniel Richards, and they didn't want people crapping themselves over the name drop of Richards.
see, that's
Oh,
what I
yeah.
think. See, so all joking aside about it not being Kang the Conqueror because he didn't drop his name.
It is Kang.
Well, no. So
It is. The guy was cast for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say he is
Yeah.
So the reason why people are jumping to Kang, for those who don't know, is that is the actor who has been cast for Kang in Ant-Man and Wasp. So by all logical leaps, that is Kang. You know, he said he's a conqueror. He says he fight his own variants. Like, there's no
He's got
reason
the color
to...
scheme. He's from the 31st century.
Right. Like, everything lines up for that being Kang. But that's where... Why didn't he just say that?
Right.
That's what boggles my mind. Like, are we going to get the line of, like, well, he's... Like, is he a Sylvie? Is he a variant who isn't Kang? Kind of a
Right.
situation?
He also seemed to drop reincarnation being a thing. Which is why he wasn't terribly worried about being killed. So it's like...
And I think he's going to become Kang because of her, because the new version of him, that's Kang. That's what I think
Right.
it is. I
Okay.
think that we're never going to learn who this guy truly was, but he is the prior version to Kang. That's what
Right.
I think is going on.
It's Kang
Okay.
1.0.
Yeah, pre-Kang.
Yeah, pre-Kang,
that-
and now he's Kang.
He's the beta test of Kang. Now
Right.
we're going to go into the release version.
And
Okay.
that's what I think is going on. Because I find it so weird that, like, okay, at first he didn't name his name, but when they literally asked him,
Yeah.
and he didn't say it,
So weird.
why didn't he say it? Is like, that's the thing. Because
Yeah.
you're not saving that reveal for Ant-Man and Wasp at this point. You did it. Here he
mean,
is.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, because here's the thing. Did they say he's debuting in Ant-Man Wasp, or did they say he was going to be in it?
it's a leak.
Right.
It's a leak
because-
that is it Jonathan Majors? I think is his name.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a
think
leak
so.
that he is in it, or they at least revealed the cast listing. But it's not like they were like, "Oh, it's Kang." They were just like,
Right.
"And we've cast this guy as Kang." Like,
Right.
and that was it. Like, that was all they did.
Interesting.
I would have loved a throwaway line of, like, if they had just asked that and he was like, I don't know, I've been here so long, I've kind of forgotten.
But he didn't even do that. They didn't even give us a reason why there
Yeah.
was no name drop.
No, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think there's anything behind it. I think they just chose not to do it. Like, I think that was one of those things where they were like, we're going to do a big reveal later, like another big reveal, but this is it. Like, this is the Thanos moment. This is the big setup for, like, this is Kang. He's our big bad. He's going to be in Spider-Man. He's going to be in Doctor Strange. He's going to be in What If. He's going to be in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like, every movie we have already in production or have just completed production of, he'll be showing up in.
Right, but once again, so why didn't they just say, "And I am Kang," and now you've got multiple
I
versions
don't
of me,
know.
and I'm going to be that is the only thing that really makes me question if he's Kang or if we're playing the variant game again.
No, he's
no.
Kang. That's-
I will allow, like, look, that is the actor, like, and he said
Yeah.
he's a conqueror. I'm not going to discount. For the sake of having to eat a shoe on that other show, I'm
Right.
gonna say it's not Kang, but
Yeah, I gotta tell you, like, yeah, he's. They were playing coy. I think that well, we'll talk about your issues with it because
okay. So
There's- I
let's
have
go with
similar
the
ones.
let's go. Then you take it point. Let's go to the actual show now. So
All right.
the elephant in the room's out of the way. We've discussed Kang.
Right, Kang.
I'm just curious why he wasn't name dropped officially, or even a variation, a known one like
Yeah.
Immortus, or I go by Iron Lad, or if he just said that I've gone
Right.
by many names. A
Yeah,
Conqueror,
Ramatut.
Kang,
Like, they're-
Ramatut, Immortus, and then we could have been like, okay, it's him. Like,
yeah.
but
Was it Immortus or Ramatut? I think Ramatut was Ramatut.
Immortus is one of them.
Immortus is the one I was thinking of. I'm sorry.
Or like even that. Or some people say my name is a Richards, but hey, I'm
Right.
none of these. Like,
Yeah.
like he didn't do that, and that's
Yeah.
what boggles my mind about this.
Yeah.
I legit for that. I think it was so that they wanted the audience to constantly think that there might be a twist that it turns out it wasn't him. And
Yeah.
if they named him, that chance of a twist is gone.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to the actual show itself. So we go
Right.
into the doorway. Miss Minutes shows up. Did either one of you guys think that Miss Minutes was going to be revealed to be the thing behind it all?
Yes.
Yeah,
I thought that was it.
I thought she was gonna like transform into someone and be like, "Hey, you finally found me,"
Right.
kind of
Right,
thing.
right.
That's yeah. I remember them saying something in like an interview or whatever about how Miss Minutes was important and how she's playing a different game, and I was like, oh god, like don't Mandarin this move. This
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
Right.
So we go inside of the building, and this is where my problem with the episode shows up. So since the beginning, I've always said the reason I didn't think it was Kang is because if we get Kang or a variation of Kang, I'm going to stick to that,
Sure.
or a variation of Kang who does not go by Kang, he goes by Gonk.
Right.
What?
His name
Kang
backwards.
backwards.
Gonk.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I've said since the beginning, the problem I'm going to have if that happens, since there's been zero setup for a Kang-style villain, a Thanos reveal, that kind of a thing.
Yep.
Nothing at all. It's going to be nothing but an exposition episode to fill in the blanks, or it's going to be like the end of Wonder Woman, where it's a giant CGI battle with zero context.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, well, it wasn't the God of War. Oh, but it was, kind of a thing,
Yeah.
you know? Like, and that is my issue. This, in my opinion, other than the cool Easter eggs, the comic reveals, like seeing getting excited for what it means for the MCU.
Yeah.
I'm excited for what this means for the MCU. I found this episode terrible, worse than episode 3, because it was nothing but an exposition dump. It
Yeah.
was calling out Sylvie and Loki, forcing them to fight, and then that was it. Like nothing actually happened, other than the Kang dying at the end. But that
Yeah.
it was
but the
them
setup.
talking the whole time.
Yeah. The episode is a complete setup for the future of the MCU, which is something that Marvel does and has done, and I don't begrudge them the exposition opportunity that they took, because it's a show. Fewer people are watching it than watch movies. We can actually take more time to set up Kang a little bit more thoroughly, so that when he shows up in a movie or another project, we don't need as much time.
Right.
But
it's a pacing problem for me. Because 3 was weird because nothing truly happened other than no reveals of female Loki.
Yeah.
And then this episode is like MCU setup. I'm hyped for that, the multiverse break. But outside of like the big, oh my God, what does this mean moment? What is the episode, an hour? 55 minutes of it is just them talking for the most part.
The only issue I have with that, because I like scenes where characters talking, that's what I love most about Black Widow, was the fact that he kept talking in circles.
Yes, exactly.
Like we didn't need, him chewing the scenery and having fun and explaining things. I get
At
it.
first was great. I was having a blast with that because I was like, oh, look at him warp around. But then he just kept over and over talking about how this is the Loki they can't trust and this is the one that can. And you have to pick one of these two things.
Yeah.
And then they debated. He's like, you got to pick one of these two things. Like,
I fear that it might have been them saying, like at the upper level, they're not going to get it. You gotta really sell it. You gotta re-explain it and then re-explain it, like what we're doing, so that when the ending comes, because like the end of this show is setting up the multiverse, and in such a degree where there is no way they're not gonna say X-Men, like the Fox X-Men, the Sony Spider-Man.
And it's the perfect way to merge it all in.
The Salinger,
Captain
America, every Marvel thing we've ever made, the Lou Ferrigno Hulk, like everything has been made, is in the Marvel multiverse.
Yes.
Like they're definitely setting that up, and it's like that's pretty awesome, and that's a pretty big deal.
It is 100%, and I agree. I don't want people to think that I'm denouncing that. That is amazing.
No. And it's also dope that we're getting What If right after that, because What If is, we're going to look at that now.
Yeah.
Like, that happened, boom, now let's look at it. And that's awesome, and I'm excited. But, you're not going to name Kang, but you're going to make Kang the bad guy, and Kang's going to set everything up. You're already taking a few things for granted. You might as well treat the audience with respect and not have him over-explain himself like 1,000 times. I really did feel like, him like chuckling and jumping around like around the 40-minute mark. I'm like, all right, like we've had enough of you explaining that like, I get it. We also have like this weird thing that Hollywood likes to do, which is the 3D exposition goop. Have you ever noticed that?
Oh, where it shows off a bunch
like,
of
let
stuff?
me,
Oh, yeah.
because it's like
Look
somebody
at me and my variants.
because somebody was like, oh my God, did you notice that this episode is 45 minutes and no talking, or just all talking? We got to have them look at something, and he could just like do the collector deal, but instead we're gonna do the like Kryptonian, Darkseidian, Snyder Cuttian, black goop that makes 3D recreations of the thing I'm talking about.
Right. So
it's weird.
I find it very difficult because as a whole, I enjoyed Loki.
Yeah,
I did. I thought it was great. I loved the fun of Tom Hiddleston. I still think
the show
Sylvie,
or just this episode.
I like him in general, but
yeah, me too.
I'm talking the show in general though.
Okay.
Like I wanted more with Sylvie. I did, and I feel like that kind of ruined her character a little bit. By like they created her, and then it was about a love triangle, and then it was she can't trust anyone, so now she's gonna fight Loki. And I feel like we missed the mark with 6. Because 5 was incredible. We came out of like, look at me make Asgard glorious
so cool.
purpose.
Yeah.
And then we proceed to have like a boardroom meeting about how we're going to introduce the multiverse practically. Like the moment he was sitting there and he's like, well, if you kill me, then everything's going to go crazy and it's all going to pan out. And we're going to have the multiverse. And I'm just thinking like, your next movie is called The Multiverse of Madness.
So you die.
I'm pretty sure someone's going to kill you. If it's neither one of them, Mobius is going to run in with a gun. I don't know.
Yeah.
So Owen Wilson runs in. This is for taking my jet ski.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. At the end of the day, I'm not going to watch any more of the show. Like, I'll never rewatch the show.
Yeah. Not this. I mean, I won't, and that's the problem with it. I probably will rewatch WandaVision eventually. Falcon Winter Soldier has some great action sequences. But, like, what really came out of Loki? Like, it had so much hope, so much potential, and they were like, it's going to change the MCU, and it did.
Yep.
But I feel like that being its backbone was too much for it. Because by the time we got to episode 6, we're like, okay, we got to explain what we're doing, because we are being promoted as the change to the MCU.
Right.
So buckle in. We gave you glorious purpose last episode. This one is the exposition dump.
Right. And that's, I like a good scene where a bunch of characters sit around and talk to each other. So this is like, this episode for me was quasi riveting. I had a great time.
I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the first 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's when they started well, you gotta kill me or not. You gotta pick. Oh, we're thresholding. What are you going to do?
Yeah,
Take over the TVA or kill me?
Yeah.
I'm like, just come on. You could cut 10 minutes out of this episode and just have it have a little bit more impact. But otherwise, I mean, like, the impact is felt. The multiverse is here. Kang has been established. We've kind of taken Loki off the board. So
yeah, he's in another multiverse timeline now.
Right.
Yeah, where they don't even know him.
I don't even know. That was kind of interesting. Well, because the TVA, like, are there multiple TVAs now? Or is it just is the TVA outside of time? Has Kang already changed the TVA again? Like, that's an interesting question that will be set up in Loki Season 2, which is, of course,
I am excited for. I am excited that we're getting a Loki Season 2.
Yeah.
But it does make me wonder why we didn't just do a 12-episode season.
Well, I think because of COVID, and I think they just weren't able to produce more shows. But, like, that could
be why it got cut off.
Yeah. Here's the other thing is that, like, it could be actually that, like, the grand conspiracy is they were going to do 12, COVID happened, and then they went, well, let's just make 2 seasons. Like, and that might be why this season felt kind of like weak or overall not terribly impactful, despite the impact.
Right.
Because they just didn't have the time or the ability to explore. Like, it could be that we needed to do a nothing episode where Loki and Sylvie talk to each other and walk across a bad CGI background for, like, the shortest amount of time in any episode of the show.
Yeah.
Because nothing that they were going to set up. I mean, that's too much meta commentary. I don't want to think about, like, what they couldn't have done. Like, you know what? You're judged by the art you make, not by the art you could have made if it weren't for XYZ. So, like, here's the show. Here's what Loki is. And at the end of the day, it's pretty cool. It had some fun acting moments. It sets exciting things up for the MCU. I certainly hope they have a plan. They certainly set up some rules, which is more than I could say for most. And I'm excited about the fact that they, like, have that in place so you can enjoy it and also know what the stakes are. So, for it being a Marvel vehicle, it's a success. For it being a, introspective drama about, analyzing the self, not so much.
What do you think, Dan? I know you've been kind of quiet, like you've chimed in here or there, but what is your opinion of today?
So I think the whole I agree. The season being 6 episodes did make it a little weak. I'm wondering if they did this because they were like, okay, let's set it up. Let's make a bunch of big things happen in the movies, and then Loki can deal with the fallout, because then you can go, hey, this all happened. We don't have to explain everything, but about this weird side scene where so-and-so went off, and now we bring Loki into it. So you already have the pre-existing backdrops essentially being set up by the movies. This episode, though, it definitely... It dragged on. It did drag on because I watched it a second time last night with my girlfriend, and honestly, I was sitting through the speech, and I was just starting going like, oh my gosh, he is saying this over and over. Just like you're saying, he does talk in circles where it's a very short conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just stretched out like beyond
the
belief.
Conversation is, I've known everything up to this point, and now I don't know, and you have to kill me or take over. Those are your 2 options. I don't care what you do. You won't affect me. I will reincarnate. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the...
I feel like we could have gotten a little bit longer of a Loki fight, to be honest, as well. Like, they used their swords. Cool. I would have loved to see a little bit more of their magic.
Yeah. Attempting to enchant each other?
Right?
Something like that, or... I don't know. Or even for Sylvie to try and enchant the guy. That was one thing that I wasn't completely sure on, because I was like, that's totally something that I feel like she would do.
Yeah, totally. That's really weird she didn't.
So I'm gonna answer a couple things in the chat real quick. First off, when we say that we're not gonna rewatch, we mean just there's no reason to rewatch the show. We don't mean like, oh, we hated it so much. We all are gonna watch. You're gonna watch season 2, right, Dan? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we're going to watch season 2. The other thing is, someone else in the chat said, well, he had to keep saying it over and over because Sylvie didn't believe him. That's the way it's written.
Right, but who cares?
Yeah, Sylvie could have believed him, or he could have just said, well, I don't care if you believe me, this is what's happening.
Right.
And that's the end of the conversation. Like,
right.
Yeah.
It could have been just simply a starts off, explains it, they fight, she enchants him, sees what's
The truth.
actually going on,
Yeah.
and he somehow dies in that manner or kills him because of that. But then you would at least kind of get a little bit more, and then they could have snuck the Kang the Conqueror thing in the enchanting moment
Yeah.
as just a moment of it looks across and it's him standing like being a conqueror
Right?
in the outfit. Then you clearly state who it is. It's not at the start. It allows the fight and everything to happen, and would have made it just a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, you just I don't know. Too much time was spent on just revisiting what was going to happen, what the two options were. You know what I mean? And then and this Loki, she doesn't trust you. She can't trust anyone. Oh, okay. So she's the bad Loki. So there was a bad Loki. They just weren't behind a curtain.
Yeah, that's fine too. I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. I like my Loki being like, I don't know, an anti-hero now, like he always kind of was, and
But now it's
Sylvie being-
definitive.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of fun.
So I don't know. It was interesting. Let's
Yeah.
talk about, because I saw the chat bring this up. How do you guys feel about the performance? This under the assumption that this is in fact Kang, like this
Right.
is just going to straight up be him, and regardless of whether or not this version turns out to be it, it's probably how Jonathan Majors is going to portray him in
Yeah.
the version where he's officially Kang.
Totally.
How do you feel about the chuckling, goofy kind of like, I know everything. But what did you think about that? Didn't feel very Kang to me. It felt like
didn't.
what they did to Ultron.
It's a little much.
Yeah.
It's a little
Yeah.
much. I hope he has a lot more to do. I mean, like, he's playing different characters and different versions of himself, I guess. So,
He wanted this one to be the goofier one. He's got a little
I-
crazy at the
yeah,
end of time.
I genuinely hope that that's not like the bulk of it. But he's got time.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that this was kind of a over the top chuckly to basically imply that this is the better of the Kangs that wanted a good timeline so that when he does swap to the alternate versions of Kang, it's such a drastic change that you go, okay, this is very clearly a different person. It's kind of like, I want to say Christopher Reeve's Superman, his Clark Kent,
Right.
versus his Superman, where he goes so over the top as Clark Kent that Superman is a drastic change. And so I'm wondering if that might be where he's going for with this, to be like, this is good, so that when I come back as Kang the Conqueror and I'm more serious, but maybe a few jokes because they are still technically the same person.
Yeah.
And the
You-
MCU.
Exactly. You can see that it truly is a different being that is just the same person. Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
that's kind of what I'm seeing out of it.
Yeah, that's fair. I like that.
All right. So, I mean, not much more to say because not much happened other than the giant explanation. Let's just go over to the. So, how do you feel about the reveal that it's now multiverse is now officially out there? There's a reason why What If exists, Multiverse of Madness exists, all of these different things exist. We've got the reason, and it was caused by a Loki. How do we feel about this?
That's fine. That's great.
Yeah.
And no one will know.
It was a great way of doing it in the movies for the movie going audience, I feel.
Yeah.
Or on the big screen or your TV screen. I guess
Right.
at home it's a big screen these days. So
Pending, yeah.
This whole show basically explains how the multiverse works and branches it out into all these different variations. now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed. So there's this moment in the opening of this episode, and you might have caught it, where over the Marvel Studios logo, they had like all these lines.
Yeah, that was new, and I didn't
It
like
was.
that.
I didn't like it
they
either.
were
but-
alternate lines though as well, some of them. I thought.
Yeah. And I thought like maybe they had snuck in a couple of like iconic or memorable lines from other Marvel movies that weren't from the MCU. They didn't, but I was kind of like, oh, this will be a cool way to like kind of kind of quietly establish the multiverse or tell you like this is what we're doing. As it stands, maybe they don't really know, and that's why we only see like branching light beams.
Yeah.
But but I'm but it's cool. I'm excited for the multiverse. I don't I'm not the world's biggest multiverse fan in terms of like I got to see alternate versions of my favorite characters or like, what if this happened? I was happy with the linear timeline we were in, but it does afford opportunity for crazy stuff to happen and for beloved actors to either return or be replaced, and so that's kind of cool. And
Yeah.
and it gives them an out. Like it gives them a really great opportunity to kind of like do whatever they want while still working within the confines of the rules they established. So,
Okay.
that sounds cool.
What about you, Dan? What do you think about the now inclusion of the multiverse and the way it was brought in? And not that they did a plot point. Why it even exists?
I mean, I thought they did a good job. I think for me, there was a slight little bit of confusing aspect of alternate timelines versus multiverse.
Right.
Like, that was one thing for me, because a multiverse is a completely different universe, whereas a timeline is just a different branch.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that one, I was a little like, are they going to say multiverse? Are they not going to say, like, kind of what's going on there? But I thought it was a decent way to do it. That was just my only complaint, was the fact that it was a timeline and not a multiverse, but they made it feel like a multiverse and not a timeline.
I mean, they're
That's
trying.
That's just a personal.
I hate to dummy down, but Endgame got over $2 billion. They are still placating the lowest common denominator. They want Joe Schmo, who doesn't even know that Batman's in a different universe, to be able to grab his wife and kids and go, let's go watch the latest Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
It's got this multiverse thing.
Yeah.
Isn't that a nifty idea? Like,
Right?
that's what they want. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
do you think Batman's a part of it now? Like,
Oh my god. There are real people who think that, as we know.
Oh yeah.
So
that's what I'm talking about. They're kind of going to the lowest common denominator, which has always been my problem with the MCU, but also what I enjoy about it, because you never have to overthink it.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's that. Overall, I enjoyed the show, Loki. I felt like the 6th episode was the weakest of them, but the reveal at the ending, definitely worth watching the show once through. Enjoy it
Yeah.
totally. 5
Yeah.
definitely had some crazy, glorious purposes.
Yeah.
that was a
5.
dope episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is fun.
Yeah, I'm definitely down for the next one, and I'm excited for What If now, because now it's like, oh, these are all technically canon.
Yeah. Right. Yes, I'm excited for What If, man. It's gonna be dope. I'm just excited. Honestly, I'm just excited for Watcher. I'm just like,
Yeah.
yay, yay.
So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap up here and then talk about another theory we have. But I'm Benny. That is Red Shirt Dan, soon to be dead. And that is Sal. And we'll see you next time right here at Absolutely Marvel and DC.